So welcome to the next episode of Diverse Faces of Surprise. Today with Sara Smith. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you. Hi, good to see you.
You too. From the US, and Sara and I have been classmates, and we have been flatmates when we did our master in creativity and change leadership. And actually, Sara, you are the reason we're doing this series of Diverse Faces of Surprise, because I think you were the one who first introduced the book Surprise.
Yes, that was for one of our classes. And the funny thing about that book is that we were required to find some book that was written in the last 5 years about creativity. And I was in the library looking at the psychology section, and I wasn't finding anything I liked. And so I turned around, behind me was a display that had, and Surprise was like right there in my face. And it just said Surprise. And I was like, I want that book. And so it was like a surprise to me. And I grabbed it and loved it. And then you loved it. And so.
Yeah. And I think that our academic advisor, Cindy, that she didn't know it either. I think you actually introduced it to her. And then when I said I want to do something about creative mindset and get people to learn how to do that better, she said, well, look into Surprise. So here we are.
Here we are.
So surprise. And what is surprise for you?
Surprise for me. Well, okay, it sounds weird to say, but like we go through life kind of predicting the future. And so surprise is when we're wrong, when our prediction is not what happens. So we think that when we walk outside, we're going to have the experience that we normally have. But if, something happens that we did not predict, we're surprised.
Yeah. And that happens more and more. Because with all the technology that there's not much surprise going on anymore. We can predict pretty much everything with big data and yeah, it's not a surprise where you're going to end up going on vacation and what the weather's going to look like in an hour or in a week.
Yeah, lots of things are predictable. And also like as you get older, right? Because when you're a kid, you don't have all of these experiences where it's like, yeah, I pretty much know how this is going to go. So when you're a kid, a lot of your life is kind of surprising because you don't know how to predict things yet. And then as you get older, you kind of know how things generally go. So it's kind of harder and harder to be surprised sometimes.
Yeah. No more first times, not so many first times.
Right. Yeah.
So, how do you like that? So if you had a chance to choose between things that going according to plan or getting things by surprise, what would you prefer?
Well, it totally depends on the situation. Because, if I have like really planned out an event and I've like painstakingly worked on it, of course, I want it to go how I planned generally. But there are also times where I like specifically seek out novelty and surprising moments because those are exciting. Those are where, the exciting parts of life come in. So, even if I've painstakingly worked on an event and I want it to go as I have planned, I still want there to be surprises inside it, like little things that happen that, don't affect the bigger picture of what I've planned, but, can still bring a little spice.
Yeah. Bring you to life.
Yeah. Surprises, they make you feel alive.
Absolutely. And as I noticed on, I think on Facebook, you have a new hobby to make it, to add more surprise and life to your life. What's that?
That is, yes. So I have started taking improv classes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things where, like I'm specifically trying to find little surprises and unexpected things and learning too. I started taking classes and I did a pottery class and then I found improv and And it has been so fun to do improv. And, in improvisation, it's kind of, the whole thing is a surprise, right? Because you get on a stage and you have no idea where you are. You have no idea who you are. You don't know who the other person is, and you don't really know what you're doing. So there's surprises all in that. And that's a really fun way to experience surprise, and also like a fairly safe way. You're just kind of playing with someone on a stage. But it really is, it's kind of, it's exciting, and it really kind of is what life is all about, those little fun surprises that you can have with another person.
And you're saying it's a safe thing, but actually this morning I had a meeting with someone who said most people who go on stage, it's like dying. So many people are so scared, and I think maybe that's even a difference between how Americans are trained in school and the Dutch. But I would say for my generation, my son is trained to be more presenting more and being on stage more. But I think that is something that my generation, Dutch people, were not trained in that, so we get terrified being on stage. So it's almost
well,
like
Americans do too. Like they say that's one of the top fears, right? Being in front of other people. So that is something that like the classes that I've taken have been really good about, because we're in class with like 10 other people, and it's like we're all in the same boat, and you're on a stage, but everyone else is in the class with you. We did do a performance at the end, and I will not lie, I was completely panicked about having to do a performance in front of other people. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be funny. I just learned this. What am I doing? But it's not actually high stakes, right? It's just, your friends and your family and your classmates up there. But I know that it can be very scary to people, and so can surprise in general. A lot of people say they hate surprises, and it's because you don't know what's going to happen. You can't predict it, and that's kind of scary to people.
yeah. And as you know, being an expert on surprise as well, surprise actually, it makes you more focused on things. So I'm curious, if you're on that stage and you do not know what's happening, do you feel that you are super focused? Like, and when you're in an interaction with another person and you don't know what's coming, do you feel you're more focused than when you're in any other situation in work where you kind of know what you're doing and you know what's coming?
That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about it in regards to focus, but like when we would get on stage and we, have no idea what's going on, the goal really for us was to really pay attention to the other person, because no matter what, they are giving you something. Maybe they look a little nervous, and you can say something about them looking nervous or feeling nervous yourself, or maybe their shoulders are slumped, and you can kind of think, oh yeah, what a rough day, or something, where you really do it really intensified the focus that you have on your partner, your scene partner out there, because that's where all the magic happens. It's between the two of you. You can go up and like pretend you're washing windows or something, but it's really the interaction and, paying attention to them and responding to what they're doing, where you might find out actually you're petting an elephant because of something that they say, where it all just comes out as little gifts and surprises along the way that you kind of build into a scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it really does like bring out your focus specifically in the kind of relationship that you have with the person that's with you.
Fully concentrating.
Yeah.
Cool. And when you go back to different phases of your life, you were just saying before, as a kid, many things are a surprise. You have little kids, you have been a teacher for kids. Can you look at phases of your life and see what role has surprise played in your life?
Yeah, when I think about like surprises throughout my life, it's really easy to think of negative surprises first.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably true for a lot of people, you know, like injuries or my parents' divorce or, you know, terrible world events that I've lived through. And, you know, we as humans kind of have a negativity bias, right? Where it's easier for us to remember the negative things. And I think that's probably why a lot of people say they hate surprises, because those are the ones that are easy to remember. So that is something that I have to like purposefully counteract in my life, where, you know, I want to seek out small delights and surprises in my life to kind of counteract that, you know, negativity bias that we all have. But, you know, I don't really know how much surprise, you know, we can't really know how much surprise affects our lives going forward. But I do know that now I'm a person that likes novelty. And so I seek out novelty, and I enjoy little surprises and making surprises for my kids. And yeah, I was a teacher. I taught first grade and third grade. And I think one of the reasons that I went into teaching was because, you know, even though as a teacher, you are planning a day and you kind of want it to go how you plan, you're making your lesson plans and everything. The fun part about being with kids is that you don't actually know what the day is going to look like. No day is the same as the day before, because you've got, you know, 27 6-year-old faces looking at you, and you have no idea what's going to come out of their mouth or anything. So that goes back to that, you know, you like to have things planned out, but it's those little surprises from the people that you're with that are really fun in life. Yeah.
And I remember you as the classmate who was on the one hand super open to novelty and indeed doing little surprising stuff for everyone, for yourself, for the teachers, for us. But you're also super structured. I mean, you really knew your stuff. You were planning ahead, and and you're saying that you're actually adding surprise deliberately. I know you don't know what your life would have been if you didn't do that, but
Right.
if you reflect on yourself, do you have any insights that you think this really made me grow, this really helped me be more flexible, to be more open, anything?
Well, I mean, definitely getting a degree in creativity, I'd say helped.
Yeah.
You know, when I think about like myself as a teenager, I would have called myself a perfectionist. Now I call myself a recovering perfectionist. um, you know, because, and I think I had a lot of a fixed mindset because I wanted to be the smart student. I wanted to know the answers. So, you know, I didn't take AP physics because I was worried it would be too hard for me and then I wouldn't look like a smart student, you know. So when I was in high school, I played it safe a lot. And it took me a while to kind of get out of that. But you know, I've always had kind of an interest in novelty and learning. And so when I found the program that we were both in to get my master's degree in creativity, you know, I found that, and you know, I had a baby and a toddler at the time, and 3 weeks later I was on a plane. 3 weeks after I found out it even existed. And you know, so like I think that that was a step towards kind of really embracing that, you know, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm so interested in it and so excited by it that I'm going to go for it. And then in that program, I really learned how to, you know, be okay giving out ideas that maybe aren't going to work, and really like learning the rules of divergent thinking kind of blew my mind, because it was like, you know, I don't have to have the correct answer as quickly as humanly possible. That's different than what we kind of teach kids in school. You know, the climate of school and a classroom is like, there's one right answer and you should get it and get it as fast as you can. So, learning about creativity and being open to new ideas and accepting all ideas when you're diverging really made a difference to me. And that's all related to surprise, because surprise is novelty, right? It's something new that you weren't expecting to happen. So yeah.
So I remember, and that must have been right after you got off the plane then, the first class that we took, Professor Firestein told us we had to make 40 mistakes that day. Do you remember?
Yeah, the mistake
must have been frightening for you then.
Yeah, but I loved the mistake tickets, and I remember watching one of our classmates on one of the first times that we had to like get up and do something in front of the class, like kind of perform, facilitate or something. He grabbed the roll of tickets and he like wrapped them around his neck. He's like, I know I'm going to make mistakes here and it's okay. And just being in a room where that's okay and everyone knows it's okay and everyone's rooting for you. That's what we hope a classroom is like, but a lot of times it's not. Kids don't know that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's good because you're going to learn from it. But that's really what I love about surprise, is that that's what learning is. Something happens that you're not expecting. You're going to get really interested in it. It's going to draw your attention. You're going to start asking questions and try to figure out what it is. And, that's what learning is. So, if you think about anything that you naturally learned in your life, it probably came from a little surprise.
Yeah. And you're now writing curricula for teachers, and you're training teachers. So what do you take away from surprise that you learned, and what do you put into your programs?
Well, one part is that kind of, they call it, Tanya and Leanne in the book Surprise call it the surprise sequence, where, our brains kind of go through this particular process when we encounter a surprise. And so I'd love to talk to teachers about that and how that kind of can catalyze learning. Yeah. So, any teacher knows that the first thing that you need is students' attention. And surprise definitely grabs attention, right? And then the next thing that you need is engagement. And surprise makes you wildly curious. So you've got your attention, you've got the engagement, and then they call it the shift part of the surprise sequence, where you've got to like, wow, this doesn't fit into what I know about the world. So now I've got to change my worldview, or I've got to somehow fit this into what I already understand about the world, which is, learning, right? Where we're adding to the schema in our brains. And then the last part of the surprise sequence is share, that we always want to talk about it when we've encountered a surprise. And of course, when you design learning experiences for kids, you want them to do something with what they've learned, talk about it with somebody else, or teach somebody else, or make something related to what they've learned. So I love to talk about that with teachers, how, if you're going to introduce a lesson or a unit, if you can start with a surprise, that's really going to kind of capture their attention and draw them through the learning process. And then I also, on the other side of that, I always like to talk to teachers about how, a lot of people don't like surprises because there's that uncertainty and ambiguity in there, that we want to help students to build resilience, but that one way that we need to do that is to give them stability. Yeah. So that can also be a teacher's role, to be stable and consistent and dependable and reliable, so that their students can then, enjoy surprise and learn to be resilient and to be able to respond to surprise in positive ways. So there's kind of both sides that I like to talk to teachers about.
Amazing. Yeah. And also for the teacher themselves. I mean, to be able to provide this to the kids, they have to actually be really secure with their teaching plans in order to let go and to let the surprise happen, especially with younger kids who are like all over the place. I think you really have to have structure in place as well, right?
Right. Yeah. A teacher needs both the stability and then the ability to, have some fun with some surprise. And yeah, with all of the things that we do, it's really important to me and the people that I work with to build up teachers as well, because they've got to come from a place where, they feel secure and stable and they know themselves and they know their strengths, so that then they can go out and they can draw out their students' strengths. We've got to take care of ourselves too.
First stable ground, and then you can dance. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And well, I love how you're actually bringing the theory to life and making it into such a concrete example. I think you don't have to be a teacher or you don't have to design a learning experience to learn from this. So thank you so much for that.
Right.
And to finish it off, do you have a tip for people, an advice that you think, oh, if you're gonna engage in surprise, this one thing you definitely have to do?
Well, a lot of people say they don't like surprise. And so the first thing I would say is that that's probably not true. If you like jokes, if you've ever laughed at a joke, that's a little surprise, right? So I'd say engage on a small level, like just try to enjoy the little surprises around you and to notice them. There's lots of times where we get so focused and busy with what we're working on that we stop kind of noticing the things around us. And, I'll go on a walk and I'll say to myself, I'm going to be surprised by something on this walk. And, if you tell yourself that, then it will happen. Yeah. And it might be a tiny surprise, but what you have to do is you have to really pay attention around you. You've got to notice things that normally you would just walk by. And, but when you do that, you'll find the surprise there, and then you can enjoy it. And so, when we think about surprise, a lot of times people think about these big, huge, like a surprise party or something. But I encourage people just to look for little surprises or try doing a little surprise. My favorite surprises right now are the things that come out of my 8-year-old's mouth. She's silly and fun, and she'll just say really interesting things that, she'll use a new word that she's heard and she'll use it in a slightly unusual way. And it's really fun. So, just like those little surprises, or, make a little surprise for someone in your house where, just write them a little note that they didn't expect to see or something. Those are all ways to engage with surprise just at a small level. And, but they can kind of help you to build up that being able to tolerate uncertainty that comes with surprises.
Build your surprise tolerance.
There you go.
and confidence.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anything that I have not asked you, but you still want to tell me, the people?
Not that I can think of.
No, I think we
Go take an improv class.
Yeah, that's always a good idea. Well, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you again. And I think you had so many, you're definitely a teacher. You had so many great lessons in such a small amount of time. So thank you. And
thank you so much. So good to see you.
Sorry, yeah. And people who are watching, thank you for watching again. And if you have any questions, any comments for Sara or for me, please leave them here or give us a call. We can be found on different social media platforms. And if you want to share your own story, always happy to collect and share stories. So please reach out as well. Sara, thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.